Hello number ones and welcome back to Metatron's Academy, the channel where we explore how to learn languages in the most fun and effective way possible. So today I'd like to talk about tonal languages and some of my personal recommendations to approach such a monumental task. There are several languages in the world that are considered to be tonal, one of the most famous ones being of course Mandarin Chinese, but Cantonese has even more tones, and there are other languages that use this sort of distinctive factor within their structural systems. And I think the first thing I'd like to say before going a little technical is that there are two main obstacles that can completely prevent you from reaching even the resemblance of an acceptable pronunciation in tonal languages. These two myths, these two problems are polar opposites. The first one being thinking that you're tone deaf, the second one being thinking that you don't need any training and you can just repeat tonal languages no problem. The first one is very common and I hear it all the time. Perhaps you even thought it yourself. And to be 100% honest, when I started learning Mandarin Chinese as my minor at university, even though I knew that I was pretty good with pronunciation in general, not perfect, but I thought I had a good year. And so when I first started to try and mimic the sounds that my Chinese friend was trying to teach me, I noticed that I couldn't tell some of the differences. That was actually quite frustrating for me. Given the problem wasn't the fact that I couldn't hear the difference, the fact is that I wasn't told what I was supposed to be looking for. Let me give you a scenario. You've got a friend, a wife, a relative, they speak Mandarin and they say something, you repeat it, you think you said it the exact same way, but they tell you, no, that's not how you pronounce it. So they say it again, you repeat it again and they tell you, no. And that's when you give up. You think, okay, maybe I'm tone deaf, I just don't know how to repeat it. Maybe it's impossible for me. The thing is that you're not tone deaf. It's simply that some elements need to be explained to you so that you will know what you're trying to listen to. The second problem instead is a problem of overconfidence, so it's kind of the opposite. It's a sense that I noticed that some people do have this feeling that other people need training, other people need to study, but not me. I'm special, I'm different. Me, I can just repeat it once, no training whatsoever, never studied Mandarin or any tonal languages, and I am going to say it right because I am me. This is something that we all have. I think it's some sort of defense mechanism to make us feel more important and special, but unfortunately it's also the root of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So do believe in yourself, but do keep also some humility. Everyone needs training. Given there are people who are more talented and perhaps can achieve faster results compared to others, maybe you are one of these people. You're just naturally good. But that doesn't mean that you can perfectly recreate every single tonal sound and difference without any sort of training at an extremely high level. So once these two things are set aside and you enter with sort of a blank slate, you're there to learn, not to impress other people, just to learn. Then you need to go through training. I will make dedicated tutorials here. But let me just say that little story that I told you, well, that one luckily was over in a couple of weeks. Why? Well, because I started getting proper training. And as I was going through these university classes, I was very lucky to have excellent teachers. But regardless of the teachers I had, I have to say that they didn't really tell me everything about, for example, all there is to know about tones in Mandarin Chinese. For instance, if you do have any understanding of, or you have spent some time in Mandarin, you'll know that there is the controversial third tone topic, whereby the third tone is taught in a certain way, academically speaking, but that's not a good representation of how the majority of Chinese people actually do render the third tone. Unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't really taught that one correctly. I was just taught that one academically. So I would say that this is really the tip number 3. Find the right teacher. And in connection to this, there is also this idea that probably my teacher needs to be Chinese. Given if it's a vocal coach and they are also Chinese, fantastic. But just the fact that your teacher might be Chinese doesn't mean that they can teach you how to do all the tones correctly. They can do all the tones correctly. To be able to do them doesn't equal they can teach you how to do it, particularly if the only language they speak is actually Chinese. If they haven't gone through your own language and don't understand exactly where you are coming from, they might not be fully equipped to help you overcome some of the problems and struggles you might have because of your native language. Another tip that I'd like to say is do a lot of listening. Obviously, the key factor here, exposing yourself to as much native pronunciation as possible, which is why books, when it comes to a tonal language, are only a supplementary, are an extra, but you have to listen to how native speakers actually say these words. This holds true with all languages, but even more so with tonal. That is because in tonal languages, if you slightly change the tone, you will completely change the meaning. Note that I said slightly change the tone, completely change the meaning. Another tip that I give you with tonal languages is go slow at first. This again can be applied to other languages, but with tonal languages, even more important. Precision of pronunciation trumps speed. Now, usually beginners do tend to speak slowly, but sometimes you do have people that are just naturally talented and immediately pick up a language and can reproduce the sounds very quickly. That's good for them, but not in Mandarin and not in other tonal languages, in the sense that because you're trying to get so much speed, you might start missing your tones, and that can be catastrophic. So, of course, I'm not saying speak too slowly, still speak in a natural way, but make sure your tones are correct before you increase speed. For instance, 今天我想去北京. 今天我想去北京. It's not fast, but it's acceptable speed. 我不是中国人，我是意大利人. Again, I'm not going very fast, but it's acceptable. Now, don't worry. With practice, speed will come. 对，我有很多中国朋友，就是我有空的时候，我上网跟我的中国朋友聊天，而且他们也会给我教一些新词嗨什么什么的。Speed is fine, but you have to have precision first. Next thing about tonal languages is be open to correction and absolutely ask your Chinese friends to correct you. In the sense that sometimes people get angry. I never was like this, but I know that some people get angry when they get corrected. Like they say something, then they get maybe they get a correction. It becomes an awkward feeling, but that's absolutely necessary. Then even today, after many years of studying Mandarin, sometimes I get corrected, and when I do, I'm happy to accept the correction as an opportunity to improve. Most importantly, you have to tell your friends to do that. Because otherwise, as long as you are clear enough to be understood, perhaps you mispronounced something, but they are not telling you because they don't want to be impolite. Which is why a strong suggestion I'm giving you is, if you're trying to practice Chinese with your friends, do tell them, please correct me if I say something wrong or if I say something in a weird way. And once you do that and you make it clear that you're trying to learn, you're trying to study, you're trying to improve, then I'm sure that they will do it. But you do have to let them know. Otherwise, they might not do that out of politeness. Okay, and as a very first basic guide on how to tackle tonal languages, I think that we can call it a day. I will of course make a full-on dedicated tutorial on all the different things that I've learned about the different tones that you have, for example, in Mandarin, and others more detailed and scientific videos on this matter. If you're interested, of course, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for joining Metatron's Academy.